Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. I hope you're having a good weekend. Last year, Frank Warren, Queensberry, put on a show called The Magnificent Seven. They've actually done this before many years ago. They've had a show under the same title where they have 7 fights, or at least 7 fights, a couple of sort of floating fights and, a couple of kids learning the trade on the undercard as well. But you've got seven good fights, 7 supposedly even matchups. And last year's show was, I think, by far the best British show of the whole year. I thought it was an absolutely brilliant evening's boxing. God knows I've slagged off Frank Warren enough in the past, deservedly so, because he often deserves it. He often asks for it. But when Queensberry deliver, they deliver. And this was a really terrific show. He being Warren, has a follow-up, The Magnificent Seven, Ride Again, March 16th. By the way, if you're not sure where The Magnificent Seven comes from, it was originally a 1960s movie. I think they remade it in the 90s, possibly. Brilliant movie. It was actually a remake of a Japanese movie, but very famous in the 60s. And then there was a follow-up, which is not nearly as good, called The Magnificent Seven, Ride Again. Well, Warren has taken the titles of those movies and is using them for his shows. And like the movie, the follow-up to The Magnificent Seven, Ride Again, plural, yeah. Magnificent Seven, Ride Again, not so good as The Magnificent Seven, but not bad either. So I thought what we do is we go through a few of the fights, just to know what you got in, what is it now, about 7 weeks' time? Roughly 7 weeks as I'm making this video. So let's start with Nathan Heeney against Brad Pauls. Now, Nathan Heeney, famous for that brilliant ring walk to Tom Jones's Delilah, where the crowd are singing along. One of the best ring walks you'll ever see. I love that song anyway. So much better than Sweet Caroline. He's 34 now, Nathan Heeney, and of course he won his British middleweight title in a real upset against Denzel Bentley, and that was last November. He's now got Brad Pauls. By the way, Heeney is still undefeated, 18 wins with 6 KOs, no draws, no defeats. Brad Pauls has 18 wins and 1 defeat. The 1 defeat was a unanimous decision to Tyler Denny, and that was last year, I want to say March, February, almost a year ago. But yeah, 18 wins. So he came back with a pretty decent win against an undefeated fighter called Mitchell Frierson. 9 wins, no defeats and 1 draw, I think he had, but he got stopped in 8 by Brad Pauls. So there's a little bit of a comeback from Pauls, and now he gets a shot at Heeney's British middleweight title. And yeah, I mean, it's a very, very good fight, pretty evenly matched. Pauls is 30 now, Heeney 34. So Heeney is enjoying this sort of Indian summer of a career, doing very, very well. But Pauls probably in his prime, I'd say. I don't think he's going to get any better at 30. But yeah, that's a good little matchup. It's a good little matchup. Then you got Liam Davies against Davies undefeated, 15 wins, no draws, no defeats. And I think he's got 7 KOs. He is fighting Eric Ayala. Ayala has 15 wins and 1 defeat. So these are pretty evenly matched statistically, these fights. Ayala, his 1 defeat was a 2-round stoppage against a guy called Carlos Acosta, who I don't know anything about. And that was back in 2020. But since then, he's gone on a little bit of a run, to put it mildly. I think he's won probably about 10 fights, 12 fights, something like that. And a couple of them have been against undefeated fighters as well. Not big names, but of course we are talking about a Mexican fighter. And over in Mexico, as we know, you don't need to have heard of these fighters for them to be real tough nuts. So if you take a couple of undefeated scalps, it's not bad going. And so Ayala, a legitimate threat, I think, to the undefeated Davies. Ayala, of his 15 wins, has got 9 KOs, and that one sort of upset defeat, I guess you call it, by stoppage. he's 23, Ayala, as well, very young man. And, you know, as we say on this channel all the time, defeats do not define you. Certainly if you're that age, I mean, a defeat doesn't mean anything. You learn from it. Davies is older, he's 27, so he's certainly coming into his physical prime, probably getting to the point where he's as good as he's going to be. But if he can beat Ayala, that'll be a good win. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one as well. That's a good matchup. Then you've got Zack Parker, still on the comeback trail. As we know, he retired after 4 rounds against John Ryder. That was back in 2022, November, I think. He's had one fight since then against a journeyman, which was a 7th round retirement, and that was September of last year. He takes on Tyrone Zoiga, and Zoiga himself has just the one defeat, and it's a stoppage to Rocky Fielding in 5 rounds. That was back in 2018, so that's a long, long time ago. I think it was sort of mid-2018, so we're talking 5.5 years ago, roughly. And since then, his career went into sort of slow burn. He's only had 5 fights since then against very modest opposition. Zoiga is still only 31, though, from Germany, orthodox fighter. Parker we know about, apart from the defeat to Ryder. He's got 23 wins with 17 KOs, no draws. Yeah, it's a decent matchup, but Zoiga, you got to wonder about the inactivity. Yeah, I mean, I would expect Parker to deal with Zoiga. I don't know. This isn't really a terrific test for Parker, you would think, although maybe he's got a few demons sort of still with him from the Ryder contest where he suffered a very badly damaged hand, had to have it operated on. He's got a pin or 2 in it now. Zoiga would probably be thinking about that. He'll probably be thinking, okay, I can put it on Parker and maybe ask some questions. But you would think Parker would start as a heavy favourite. You've got Dennis McCann. He's in a fight with a guy called Brad Strand. Now, both these fighters are undefeated. Dennis McCann has 14 wins with 8 KOs, 1 draw, no defeats. His draw was actually a technical decision. I think it was 9 rounds against, how do you pronounce this guy's name? I always forget how to pronounce it. Einat Baluta. You know the guy I mean, real terrific hard nut. A hard nut, yeah. Inat Baluta. Inat Baluta? However the hell you pronounce it. It's Baluta. And that was a draw in his last fight. But McCann he's got 14 wins, 8 KOs, a little bit of pop to his punches, beat Joe Ham in 8 rounds. That was back end of 2022. James Beach Jr., he stopped him in 8 as well. I think that was around about mid-June, July 2022. And yeah, Brad Strand. By the way, I should point out, McCann is still a very young man. He's 23 years old. He's southpaw, a little ball of energy. Brad Strand, undefeated, 11 wins, only 3 KOs, no draws, no defeats. He's 26. He's a bit older, probably coming into his physical prime. Orthodox fighter as opposed to the southpaw McCann, but undefeated. And he actually holds the WBO European Super Bantam title, which at the time was vacant. He won it off Joshua John, who I don't know much about at the time, but fair play to Strand, he won it. And that's on the line, along with another one of the WBO International or Intercontinental belts. But forget about the belts. I mean, this is 2 undefeated fighters going at it, and that's always a good thing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, be a good fight. Then we got Joe Joyce against Cash Ali. Now, I'll only tell you anything about Joe Joyce, coming off 2 defeats to the old Chinese fella, Zhile Zhang. Both stoppage defeats. The second one devastating, a real knockout, flat-out knockout. But even though he's 15-2, 14 KOs, he's going in against Cash Ali, and this, to me, is a mismatch, a complete mismatch. Cash Ali's 32 now. Joe is in his late 30s. But Cash Ali has never really done anything. 21 wins, 12 KOs, 2 defeats, both on points. And in fact, he lost his last fight to Bohdan Mironets of Ukraine. He lost it over 6. Mironets actually outpointed Nathan Gorman as well in his following fight. So Mironets can fight a bit. He boxed very well, and he won virtually every round against Ali. Cash Ali is well known for giving David Price a little nibble. That was back in, I don't know when early, was it 2019, something like that, 2018. Yeah, he got disqualified in 5 rounds. I only see one winner in this fight, and that's Joe Joyce. And I know Joyce is coming off 2 bad defeats, but I mean, how things change. You know, Joyce knocking out Parker. The following year, he has a disaster. And now he's back to fighting Cash Ali, whereas Parker has 4 wins following the Joe Joyce fight, and he's going in there with who else? Zhilei Zhang. So, you know, defeats do not define you. That's what we keep on saying. But yeah, only one winner in this. I'd say stoppage, probably in about 6 or less for Joyce, 4, 5, 6 rounds, something like that. So it'll be interesting to see where Joyce is. You know, talking of heavyweights, you've got Solomon Dakers. Now, as things stand, Dakers does not have an opponent, but that is another heavyweight bout, and there is a question mark over Dakers because he fought Michael Webster last time, won a majority decision over 10, and I thought he edged it. But a lot of people don't. They say, no, Michael Webster won that fight. And then when I watched it back, I can see what they mean. Because watching it live, I thought Dakers might have edged it by a point or 2, but no, you can definitely make a case for Webster winning that fight. So there was a big question mark over Solomon Dakers. He's only got two knockout or stoppage wins in eight victories, no draws, no defeats. Who's he going to fight remains to be seen. But will be interesting. I'd like to see him in with Moses Atama or, I mean, why not bring in someone else? Why not bring in Adelaide or someone like that? You know, Adelaide's coming off a defeat. But anyway, we'll have to see who he's going to face. Then you've got Ethan James, who's undefeated, 12-0. He's going in with Owen Cooper, who's also undefeated, 9-0. Ethan James doesn't have any knockout victories. All 12 of his wins have come on points. So he is what you would call a boxer, a pure boxer. No pop to his punches. He's only 23, orthodox fighter. He beat James Moorcroft in his last fight. That was mid last year, June, July last year. But if you look at his record, there aren't that many people who you wouldn't describe as journeyman, really, on his record. So I guess you could say this is a step up against Owen Cooper. Cooper's got three knockouts or stoppages in 9 wins, no draws, no defeats. He's an orthodox fighter. He's 23. So a battle of the youngsters here, really. And yeah, I mean, this is for the English welterweight title and the WBO European welterweight title. So it's for the English title and the WBO European title. That kind of says how highly you should rank the WBO title. It's English level, isn't it? Just a junk belt, isn't it, really? Gets you a ranking and nothing more. To me, the real belt on the line is the English one. Should be a good little fight. Neither's got much power, of course, but yeah, worth a look. 2 undefeated guys is always interesting. Who else have we got? I think that's all 7, isn't it? And then you've got a couple on the undercard, a couple of youngsters on the undercard, maybe. I think Ezra Taylor's fighting. He's undefeated. He hasn't got an opponent yet, 7-0. But that's about it. So not a bad card coming up. It's over in Birmingham. And it is, like I say, March 16th. So I'm looking forward to this one. Yeah, I think this will be a good night's boxing. I do like the British cards. I like the fact that we've got several undefeateds meeting other undefeateds. I think that's always interesting to see. So put it in your diary. March the 16th, the Magnificent 7 ride again. And yeah, let me know what you think. Comments below if you've got any. As usual, subscribe to the channel if you're new and hit the like button. I always appreciate that. And looking forward to reading your comments. Bye for now.